Welcome to Simply Scripting in Second Life. I'm your host Dorex Delicioso. Welcome to our second episode of Simply Scripting. Before we begin, there's just a little bit of housekeeping to be done. I know for myself, it's frustrating trying follow to YouTube tutorials when all of a sudden, I can't find a particular one. What I'm going to do is create a single video with all the links to all episodes in it. That way, you can read the description to all of the contents and get the correct link to the video. I'll put a link to that video in the description of each episode so it's easy to find. Hopefully, it will remove some of the frustration for you, and me too. Back to business. In episode 1, we looked at the default script that's included automatically. We discussed what each of the lines were and why they're there. We talked a bit about the ll-say function, and we created a simple user-defined function of our own. In this episode, we're going to look at the different data types, how to define and use variables, and expand on how to create your own functions. If we have enough time, we'll look into how we can get scripts to listen to each other. That might be a lot, so let's create our default cube and default script and start adding some code. So, we've created our default cube and pulled it up off the floor onto the desk. You can see we named it episode 2. We've added the default script, also named episode 2, because I'm so imaginative when it comes to naming things. It's a cube, not much can be said about it, other than, well, it's there. Let's at least try to make it look nicer. Clicking the texture tab opens up some possibilities for improvement. Let's select a new color. Maybe purple. Better, but still, not. We'll get rid of the wood grain texture that comes by default. I like that, now let's light it up a bit. There. Much better. Let's open up our default script. Once we have the script open, we can close the build window to give us more room. I've opened up the script window and added some blank lines at the top to give us some room to work. As we talked about in the last video, any user-defined function, that's any function we write ourselves, must be put before the default state. These are known as global functions. A lot of our variables will also go in this global space. These are global variables. There are also local variables that we'll see later on. Anything in the global space is visible and available to any function and any state we create. The Linden scripting language has 7 built-in data types. Creating a variable is called declaring a variable. When we declare a variable, we have to give it at least 2 pieces of information. The first piece is the data type, meaning what type of data will this variable hold. The second piece of information is the variable's name. The variable name is how we can reference the variable in our script. We'll look first at the string data type. A string data variable can hold all text characters. We declare the variable by writing the data type string, followed by the variable name. Let's call it avatar name. Make sure you add the semicolon at the end of the line. Also note that the data type name, string, is in all lowercase letters. All data type names are lowercase. For the variable name, they can be a mixture of upper and lower case. I'll be using a format known as lower camel case. That just means that variable names start with a lowercase letter and each new word has an uppercase first letter. It may seem odd, but it's a generally accepted practice and is what I use in my real-life day job as a software developer. So now our script knows there is a variable called avatar name, and it's a string data type. What we haven't done yet is tell that variable what value to hold for us. Variables hold values, it's their only purpose in life, giving and getting values. We'll edit our script and initialize, remember that word, initialize our variable with a string constant. Here, we have said the variable avatar name is assigned the value of Dorex Delicioso. The single equals sign is an assignment operator, another phrase to remember. That equals sign assigns the value on its right, to the variable on its left. We call the quoted text Dorex Delicioso a string constant, because we can't change that quoted text by code in our script. We can manually edit it, but we can't change it when the script is running, so it's a constant. What we can do, however, is change the value of the variable to something else. I know, so many rules. Don't worry, the rules stay pretty constant for all the variable types. Another data type is called the integer data type. An integer data type can hold whole numbers, that is, numbers without a decimal point. The range of values integer variables can hold go from about -2.1 billion to positive 2.1 billion. That's more than enough values for our needs. We declare an integer variable the same way we did the string variable. We add the variable type name, followed by a variable name of our choosing. We'll call this variable avatar age. And we'll remember to add the semicolon. We've declared the variable, so the script knows it's there, and now we'll edit the variable to give it a value. We'll assign the value 35 to avatar age. It's a good number and makes me happy. Note that we don't have any quotes around the value. We only use quotes with string data types. A third data type is called float. A float data type refers to a floating point number. Don't worry about what that is, it's enough that you know a float data type can hold numeric values that contain a decimal value, like 1.5 for example. We'll create a float variable. First, the data type, then the variable name, then we'll add the assignment operator and finally a value, oh yes, then the semicolon. There are 4 more data types we can explore. Key holds a sequence of letters and numbers that are globally unique. Vector, a sequence of 3 values that determine an x, y, and z direction. Rotation, like a vector, a sequence of 3 values that determine an x, y, and z direction. List, a special type of data that can hold all the other data types in a list. We'll get to those last 4 in future episodes. It's enough for now that you have a good understanding of how to define a variable, and how to initialize it. Next, we're going to look at how we consume, or use, those variables in our script. Yes, so finally, we get to write a bit of code. Thank you for being patient with me while I rambled on. It's pretty dry stuff, but it forms the basis of everything we do from here on out, and it's important to understand. Now that we have some variables to work with, let's start consuming them. We'll get rid of the ll-say function calls that were added by the default script. It's much more rewarding to create your own. So, let's get the script to say our name. We know ll-say will output string text on channel 0, the public channel as we discussed last time. So, we just have to get ll-say to accept our avatar name variable. We've just replaced the string constant, touched, from the original function call with our variable. Let's save our work and check for any errors. We really should save our work after every few lines we add, just to be sure we haven't introduced an error. If we touch the cube, we can see, ll-say did in fact say our name. Let's see if we can get ll-say to say our age. Add the function call and save your work. Oh no, we have an error at the bottom of the screen. The error is telling us that at or around line 21, there is a function call mismatch or number of arguments. So what's different this time than when we did our name? Our name is a string data type, and our age is an integer data type. The ll-say function outputs only string data, not integers, floats, vectors or anything else. Not to worry, we can fix this up in short order. We'll do something called an explicit cast. A what? An explicit cast is just the name for taking one data type and converting it to another. It's explicit because we're adding the instructions to do it. To do an explicit cast, we'll add parentheses around the data type string, before the variable avatar age. This tells the script to get the integer value from avatar age, but change it to a string, but only for this one time. If we save our work, the error is gone. Touching the cube again gives us both our name and age. In the next example, we're going to combine some of our variables into one say function call. We can combine, or concatenate, string data into a single value. We do that using the plus sign. We'll start with outputting a simple string constant. Save your work, touch the cube. You know the routine. Next we can add or concatenate a value to what we already have. You can see what we did there. We added the plus sign, then we did an explicit cast on min age, because we know it's not a string data type. Save, click, check. All is good, so we can add some more. Well, mostly good. Our min age has too many zeros following it. That's okay, that's how float variables work, they output their values to 6 decimal places. We'll learn how to fix that, but for now, rest assured that this is correct. Now, we've added a plus sign and single space in quotes, another plus sign in our string variable avatar name. Because we know avatar name is a string variable, we don't have to use an explicit cast on it. Here, we added a plus sign, the string constant, is now, another plus sign and explicitly cast the integer variable. Because these lines are getting pretty long, we split the line. As long as we don't split a line inside a set of quotes, our script won't complain. We can show this because to the script, this line starts with the function call and goes all the way to the semicolon at the end. That's why the semicolon is important. It marks the logical end of a command. You know what to do now. And there. We've learned a lot of things this episode. I think it's a good idea to push off talking to other objects until next time. It's getting late and my family expects dinner, of all things. Let's recap what we've learned. We learned that we can add variables and functions in the global space before the default state. We learned there are 7 different data types. We learned how to properly declare a variable, and how to optionally initialize one. We learned that not all data types are equal, and we can explicitly cast some data type from one to another. And we learned how to combine, or concatenate, variable and string constants using the plus operator. All of this is good knowledge, and are the building blocks we need to fully understand and work with scripts in Second Life. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are. As always, leave any comments or questions below. If you're in World, come and say hi. Goodbye.